I am really enjoying using my tiny little non-monetized backup TikTok to talk about whatever I want and choosing to talk about positive stories, hopeful stories, stories that are constructive and help push us in the right direction and kind of counter all of the really doom and gloom stuff we hear in the media. That feels good. It feels right. It feels like I'm doing the right thing with this account right now. Logging in here, I was like, I'm excited to talk about this story. So, day before yesterday, I think it was, I made a video about this terrible news in Lexington, Nebraska, where Tyson has a beef packing plant and they've decided to shut it down. This is a community of about 10,000 people, and 3,200 of the residents work for this Tyson plant that will be closing in January in just a few weeks. It is the primary employer for this town, and Nebraska is already really hurting because Donald Trump is devastating farming. And in that original video, I mentioned that 82, almost 83% of the residents of this county in Nebraska voted for Donald Trump. This is a deeply red part of the country, and they are suffering because of what Donald Trump is doing to dismantle protections for workers, to make America actively a much worse place, to enhance corporate corruption on every level. So what Tyson is doing, by the way, there are only 4 major companies that control all of the meat packing in the United States. And I've talked about that a ton. Tyson is one of them. What they're doing by shutting this plant down is they are reducing the slaughterhouse and packing capacity for beef in the United States by 5%. May not seem like a lot to you. That is a huge manipulation. And what Tyson is doing with that plant is they're just shutting it down. They're refusing to sell it to a competitor. Which we could talk then about federal antitrust laws, section 1 of which prohibits conspiracies to restrain trade, and section 2 of federal antitrust laws prohibit monopolization. What's going on with Tyson shutting down this factory and refusing to sell it to a competitor is an attempt to gain more of the control over beef packing, to limit access for competitors and to manipulate the prices. In that original video, I got a lot of comments from people who were like, well, these are mega corporations. These are big corporations. And who cares if they're going under Donald Trump? That's FAFO for them. And I was like, no. Tyson is not losing out here. This is a specific business move to enhance their profit and hurt their competitors. And 3,200 working class Americans are about to lose their jobs because of it. And not just the folks at the plant, all of the truckers who drive in and out to the plant and ship the beef, the cattle ranchers, and all of those, who grows the hay for those cattle ranchers, who manage it, like who's trimming hoofs, and the vets that are, like, there's just so many layers. Anytime one industry is impacted, you have to look at all of the connections around there and all of the other people who are going to be negatively impacted, because we don't actually live in a culture with individualism. We want to believe that we are separate from other people and you take care of you and yours and I'll take care of me and mine. Nope, it's all connected. And so I was like, this is going to be devastating on so many levels. And it's all about big beef packing, right? It's all about these mega ag corporations, these mega commodities corporations, these mega meat processors, big fertilizer, big seed companies. Like these are who are controlling everything, and Donald Trump is working for them and really fucking shit up for us. We are seeing right now how it makes us far less secure as a nation. We become much more precarious, much more food insecure. The American people suffer when there is less competition. We have a less diversified food system, and a couple of gajillion-dollar corporations, multi-billion-dollar corporations control how our food is grown. Not only how our food is grown or raised, but like even before that, the seed stock. They also control access to the land. Then they control how our food is grown, what kinds of foods are grown, all of that processing chain. They control the prices and the distribution. That is a bad scene for all of us. Now, I know I said at the beginning that this was going to be a positive video, so let me bring it full circle here. In a lot of my videos, I talk about how every terrible thing the regime does can elicit a backlash. It can backfire on them, and we have to make sure that it backfires on them. Likewise, anytime the regime does something terrible or big corporations do something terrible, anytime we have a negative experience, it gives us a chance to collect feedback, to adapt, and change our plan. Maybe I want to talk about this more in the next video, because that is an ecological concept when we talk about disturbance. And yeah, okay, I'm going to talk about it more in the next video. So We're looking at the ways that the Trump regime and mega corporations are making it really bad for America's farmers and ranchers, and they're also making our food system much less secure. So how can that be used to elicit a backlash? How can that be used to help farmers and ranchers and the American people move toward a more sustainable, resilient food system, right? I am a big proponent of hyper-local economies, especially hyper-local food economies, because I understand that diversifying and eating food that is grown as close to you as possible, that is one of the pathways through which we build resilience. It doesn't mean people have to create local diets. It doesn't mean we have to change the ways that we eat, but that's such a great opportunity there. Okay, how is all of this negative shit that we're experiencing right now with big ag, how is that also an opportunity? It's not just me saying this. Somebody in my comments suggested the exact same thing. Okay, I paused the video to go try and look up the comment, and I can't find it now because the video's got like 1,100 comments. But basically they were saying, wait, is this a chance for our cattle industry to change the way that they do business, to not be beholden to big corporations, but to figure out a workaround, to figure out a new and more sustainable system? Because our cattle ranchers are struggling. People can't afford beef. Small local abattoirs have basically gone out of business now. I get half a cow from a local farmer who just has a very small herd of cattle, and we use a local abattoir that's about 35 minutes away from my house. How can we shift back to that model or create a new iteration of that model to help work around this problem that has now arisen by giant mega corporations, 4 companies controlling most of our butchering and meat packing? And I was like, yes, exactly. How can the problem be the solution? In permaculture, we say the problem is the solution. The problem is that giant corporations controlling all our food supply, creating essentially monopolies and screwing over producers and consumers. That's not sustainable. That's the problem. So the solution is, what we want is sustainability. What we want is equity. What we want is for people to be able to afford to grow and raise food, and people to be able to afford to eat food. So how do we create a solution out of that? This is not just happening with livestock, it's also happening with other producers as well. And I want to show you one example of how the problem can be the solution, how what mega corporations and the Trump regime are doing, how what big ag is doing can backfire, can blow up in their face. We as creative, adaptive people can pivot because we have to, can form new plans and build more resilient food chains, more resilient systems.
I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to the big corporations for not paying farmers a fair price for their crops. So far this year, I have not sold a single kernel of corn to the big corporations that buy nearly all the corn in the United States. I sold them 0. I've sold all of it direct to deer hunters and cattle farmers. I've ground into cornmeal, I've ground into grits. That bin is getting mighty low. I sold 0 to you, corporate America. I'm selling it all direct, and I'm making a lot more money doing it that way. With my peanuts, they tanked the price of peanuts earlier this year. We normally get about $600 a ton or $500 a ton, somewhere in that range. In the 1980s, we got $750 to $800 a ton. Right now, the big corporations are paying peanut farmers $380 a ton for peanuts when we were getting $700 in the 1980s. It is slam ridiculous. It is a shame. And something needs to be done about it. And what I personally am doing about it, I started selling peanut brittle made from my peanuts right here on this farm. We are within 20 bags of selling out. We've been selling peanut brittle, I think, for 4 days now. We prepared the amount we thought it would take us through the holidays to sell. We sold it in 4 days. We sold peanut brittle all over this entire country. We unlocked international shipping this morning online, and we're selling it worldwide. Peanut brittle from this farm out to folks like you, because corporate America wouldn't give us a price we deserve for our crops, so we just cut them out of the loop.
Yeah, how do you like them apples, big ag? What do y'all think of that? There's no such thing as we're cooked and it's all over. We are adaptive, creative people who can find solutions. Every time they make something worse for us, that gives us a chance to adapt. That gives us a chance to formulate a new plan. A plan that can help us move toward more sustainability in the US, toward more equity. Just because they do something terrible, it doesn't have to mean all of the consequences are terrible for us. We need to make the consequences be terrible for them, for big ag, for the Trump regime, but it can be an opportunity for us.